This week on Forever Spinning, we take a look at one of the most legendary Wu-Tang solo albums as we dive into GZA's masterpiece, Liquid Swords.
Perfect.
To put it in GZA's words, Wu-Tang was on a roll in the mid-90s. The group was finally starting to branch out and make their own solo records, from Old Dirty Bastard's Return to the 36 Chambers or Method Man's Untitled. It was only a matter of time until GZA would set out to make a record of his own. In early 1995, GZA was helping Raekwon finish up Only Built for Cuban Links, and he hopped in the studio with RZA. Both RZA and GZA decided that it was time for them to record a project together. In classic Wu-Tang fashion, the idea behind this album is deeply rooted in their affinity for martial arts films. The particular film to which this album is inspired by is Legend of the Liquid Swords, a martial arts comedy. GZA says the inspiration for the title comes from scenes in the film where somebody would get their head cut clean off, but it would still balance on their shoulders due to the sharpness of the blade. GZA said that he wanted to take the same approach with this record, but instead of actually physically chopping people's heads off with swords, he wanted to do so with his sharp lyrical prowess. He said, "Liquid Swords is a concept of being lyrically sharp, flowing like liquid metal," and also added, "Wu-Tang is a sword style, and this here is the sharpest. I'd rather slip on the pavement than slip on my tongue." The idea of a concept album also intrigued GZA. While many other Wu-Tang albums have a common theme or message, they were never really thought of as a whole cohesive piece. So with the help of RZA on the production side of the project, GZA set out to create his concept album. Utilizing common themes of darkness and a general moody nature, along with using samples from Legend of Liquid Swords, it was shaping up to be a wonderful record. However, GZA's writing process was slow, as he recalls. He says that his writing process wasn't slow because it took a long time, but it was in comparison to the other members of the Wu-Tang Clan who could write a verse and record it in like 45 minutes. GZA's approach and meticulous care in the writing is what separates it from other albums like Return to the 36 Chambers or Only Built for Cuban Links. He sends the listener down a lyrical journey full of dark and brooding twists and turns. This album, along with many of the other early Wu-Tang albums, was recorded in RZA's studio basement in Staten Island. Liquid Swords was eventually released on November 7th, 1995 on Geffen Records, to a welcoming 9th spot on the Billboard 200 charts, as well as immense critical acclaim. The first single released alongside Liquid Swords was I Got Ya Back, which was originally released on August 22nd, 1994. This track is considered to be the true ending of Liquid Swords, although most versions of this record do end with basic instructions before leaving Earth, Bible for short, as the album's finale. I Got Your Back features vocals from RZA on the hook as they both rap about watching your back no matter who you're around. The samples in this song are classics in the Wu-Tang world, especially the sample of As Long As I've Got You by the Charmels, which was the lead sample on Cream. I Got Your Back was not a chart topper, only being found at 29 on the Hot Rap charts and is nowhere to be found on the Hot 100. It was originally written and recorded for the film Fresh, but then was re-recorded for the purpose of this album. Simply put, this is a timeless track that does not get enough attention on this record. The next single to drop with GZA's seminal album was the title track, Liquid Swords. This single came out on October 10th, 1995, and it peaked at 48 on the Hot 100 charts. The song is most notable for its dark and eerie opening, which is a sample from the film Shogun's Assassin, as well as GZA's braggadocious approach to the lyrics. The infamous hook, "When the MCs came to live out the name," and so on, was actually something that RZA, GZA, and ODB would sing when they were younger, dating back almost 10 years before his ever laid to wax. Where most of GZA's lyrics would take a long time to write, he said that he was able to write Liquid Swords rather quickly. This song is iconic as any of the Wu bangers, being sampled by other artists such as Rhapsody and Mos Def, and it still holds up as one of the best RZA beats ever. After the album was released, the next single, Cold World featuring Inspector Deck, dropped on November 28th, 1995. The lyrical content of this song is dark and gritty to say the least, as GZA vividly describes the overt social problems that are crippling the world around him. Stevie Wonder's Rocket Love was a huge influence on this song, so much so that RZA heavily sampled Rocket Love, and GZA would interpret the hook to fit on Cold World. Cold World is yet another testament to GZA's incredible storytelling ability, as he opts to open up the song in the tune of The Night Before Christmas to cue the listeners in on the tone and direction of the song. Both GZA and Inspector Deck touch on real social issues like the vicious cycle of gang violence. All in all, one of the darkest songs songs on this record. Finally, on March 5th, 1996, the last single, Shadowboxin featuring Method Man, was released. Upon its release, it was immediately lauded for both Meth and GZA's verses, being hailed as an instant classic. For all the reasons that Liquid Swords is a great album, you can actually find all of these same reasons in Shadowboxing alone, as it amplifies the Wu mythology, pushes new lyrical boundaries, and paints a picture of the world that they were living in. Shadowboxing peaked at 67 on the Billboard Hot 100 and is still considered to be one of the greatest hip-hop songs ever created. Liquid Swords is an all-timer for me. It is definitely my favorite Wu-Tang project, and is definitely one of my favorite hip-hop albums of all time. RZA and GZA create a world on Liquid Swords like no other, one that is actually more felt than it is heard. I love a good concept album, but so many times the concept is in the instrumentals or the lyrics, but on Liquid Swords the concept goes as far as being near tangible, going so much further than almost any other concept record. I feel like I could be in Shaolin fending for myself when Cold World comes on. I get claustrophobic when the eerie synths open up Fourth Chamber. This album feels more like a film rather than a collection of songs, a concept unable to be defined or confined by a categorical box. Plus, Liquid Swords is packed with bangers. RZA does not hold back on trying to blow out your speakers with these grimy, dirty beats that feel aged and worn out. Both GZA and RZA, along with all the other Wu-Tang members who are featured on this album, bring their A-game. Sure, this album does constantly bring up the social issues that GZA was surrounded by growing up in his community. I mean, after all, it is a concept album. But more than anything, this album is pure, unfiltered art in one of its rawest forms. So, whether you've never heard this record before, or if it is one of your personal favorites, GZA's Liquid Swords will always be forever spinning. Thanks for watching.